There are some people whose names become immortal because they rule kingdoms. Some are remembered because they commanded armies. Some because they built giant companies or changed politics. But once in a generation, there comes a human being whose greatness is almost invisible. No throne, no crown, no empire, just kindness flowing silently through their veins. This is the story of James Harrison. Nothing about his childhood suggested that one day doctors across an entire nation would depend on the blood flowing through his body. The quiet Australian man whose blood would go on to save millions of babies around the world. And the most extraordinary part of his story is this: he never set out to become a hero. As a boy, James was known to be gentle, disciplined, and shy. He was not loud or attention seeking. He enjoyed ordinary things: family life, routine, and hard work. But when he was 14 years old, his life changed forever. One day, James became critically ill with a severe lung condition. His chest was collapsing internally, and doctors discovered that major surgery was the only way to save him. At that time, such operations were extremely dangerous. For a frightened teenager, the hospital itself felt terrifying. The smell of medicine, doctors speaking in serious voices, his family waiting helplessly outside. Then came the surgery. Doctors removed part of one of his lungs in a long and complicated operation that lasted several hours. But the surgery created another problem. James lost an enormous amount of blood. Bag after bag entered his body. By the end of the procedure, nearly 13 liters of donated blood had been used to save his life. Imagine being 14 years old and realizing this truth. You are alive because complete strangers cared enough to give part of themselves for you. That realization never left him. While recovering in the hospital, weak and covered in bandages, James made a quiet promise to himself. The moment he became old enough, he too would become a donor. Not for recognition, not for reward, simply because someone else had once done the same for him. Years later, shortly after turning 18, James walked nervously into a blood donation center. Ironically, despite becoming one of the most famous donors in history, James actually disliked needles. Even throughout his later years, he often admitted he looked away during donations because seeing the needle made him uncomfortable. But courage is not the absence of fear. Sometimes courage is doing something good despite fear. And that became the story of his life. At first, James believed he was just another volunteer donor among thousands. But doctors soon noticed something unusual in his blood. It carried an extremely rare antibody known as anti-D. This antibody was capable of protecting unborn babies from a deadly condition called hemolytic disease of the fetus and newborn. At the time, countless families suffered devastating tragedies because of this disease. A mother would become pregnant and everything would appear normal at first. But inside her body, her immune system could begin attacking the baby's blood cells. Many babies died before birth. Others were born with severe brain damage or life-threatening illness. Entire families lived in fear during pregnancy because medicine had no reliable protection. Then, scientists discovered that the antibodies in James Harrison's plasma could help create a life-saving treatment. Suddenly, this quiet Australian man carried something almost priceless within him. Doctors urgently requested that he continue donating regularly. And James said yes, again and again. For the next 60 years, most people donate blood once or twice in their lifetime. Some become regular donors for a few years. But James Harrison turned donating into a lifelong mission. Nearly every single week, he traveled to donation centers across Australia. Imagine the discipline required. Busy schedules, rain or heat, family responsibilities, work pressures, aging body. Still, he continued. He eventually made more than 1,100 donations. The plasma from his blood helped manufacture anti-D injections used to protect millions of mothers and babies. Over time, doctors estimated that more than 2 million babies were saved because of donations connected to James Harrison. 2 million. That number is so enormous that the human mind struggles to truly understand it. Entire cities of people are alive because one man kept showing up. Outside the donation centers, James lived an ordinary life. He worked for the State Railway Department for many years, maintaining a modest and stable career. He was known as dependable, punctual, and humble, the kind of man co-workers trusted immediately. No celebrity lifestyle, no obsession with fame, just family, responsibility, and kindness. Together they built a loving home and raised children. And then, life brought James one of the most emotional moments imaginable. Years later, his own daughter required anti-D treatment during pregnancy. Think about how extraordinary that is. A promise made by a frightened teenage boy eventually came full circle, saving his own future family generations. As the years passed, James grew older, but he refused to stop donating. Even as his hair turned grey and his body weakened with age, he kept returning. Doctors carefully monitored his health because regular plasma donations over decades required strict supervision. Thankfully, James generally remained healthy throughout most of his life. He credited discipline, routine, and a positive mindset for helping him continue so long. Travel became harder. Recovery after donations took longer. There are people who need it. That was enough for him. Over time, the media discovered his incredible story. News organizations around the world interviewed him. People began calling him the man with the golden arm. He received national honors, including the Medal of the Order of Australia. But fame never changed him. Even after becoming internationally known, James remained remarkably humble. He joked with nurses, spoke softly, avoided attention. He never described himself as extraordinary. In his mind, he was simply repaying a debt to humanity. Because decades earlier, strangers had once saved a scared 14-year-old boy lying on an operating table. Finally, in 2018, at the age of 81, James Harrison was required to retire from donating due to Australian medical regulations. After more than 6 decades of giving blood, his final donation arrived. The room that day was filled with emotion. Doctors stood beside him. Nurses who had admired him for years gathered around. Families came carrying children whose lives existed because of him. Some mothers cried, some children hugged him. And sitting there quietly was the same humble man who had simply kept a promise for most of his life. No great speeches, no demand for recognition, just gratitude. When we think about changing the world, we often imagine dramatic acts. We imagine revolutions, powerful leaders, historic battles. But James Harrison's story teaches something deeper. Sometimes the world changes because one ordinary person quietly decides, as long as I can help someone live, I will continue. No applause is necessary. No monument is required. Because somewhere in this world today, millions of people are laughing with their families, celebrating birthdays, falling in love, building futures, and holding their children close. All because a quiet man from Sydney kept rolling up his sleeve, week after week, year after year, until he simply could not anymore. The world does not survive only because of powerful people. It survives because ordinary people choose kindness, even when nobody is watching. A frightened 14-year-old boy once received blood from strangers and lived. And instead of forgetting that kindness, he spent the rest of his life passing it forward. In the end, James Harrison did not leave behind monuments or armies. He left behind something far greater: millions of heartbeats. And maybe the real question his story leaves us with is this: if one ordinary human being could save millions of lives simply by giving a small part of himself, how many lives could we change if all of us chose to care just a little more? James Harrison passed away peacefully in his sleep on the 17th of February 2025 at the age of 88 in Umina Beach. Even after his passing, his legacy continues to live on in millions of children and families across the world.